Hello everyone, I'm Silverraptor and welcome back to another Wargame Red Dragon deck creations video, where the next request for a deck to be made was a Soviet armored deck. Now, I actually thought that a Soviet armored deck I had already created, but if we go through, that is not the case. In fact, the only armored deck we have is the standard 1980s deck that the Soviet Battle Group has, which I'm just going to view just for lulz to see what it has. Basically, nothing really important. Okay, so we will create a Soviet armored deck, and I have some ideas about this too. It's going to be a little bit different than what I typically pick for a Soviet deck, especially with the armor division. Alright, here we go. Logistics tab, we are of course going to get the T-80 UK. Now, we do have some choices. We could get this hardened, because this is a really good tank, but it is 200 points. That's going to be up a lot of points, so I'm not entirely sure that we want to get it hardened, but if we get one elite, because I am weird and I will actually use these tanks to shoot at stuff, but that's just me. I mean, if you're going to pay the points to have a tank, you might as well use it. Just be very, very hyper aware. Like this unit you babysit at all times with your attention to make sure you know where it is and what threats it could possibly come from. Now for other CVs, T-72. Let's see. Would I normally pay for this tank? If you ever have a confusion on whether or not you should pay for the tank, basically take the command tank and subtract 100 points from it. That's about what I think is the command status. And you could say, would I pay 50 points for this tank? And that answer for me is no, I would not. So instead, a BMP 1K, I shall get you, because you are decently armored. Not as armored as the T-72, but armored enough, a little bit amphibious, can get it where we need. Or do we want... Okay, I'm torn. We could do the UAZ or the BMP 1K. Now, this is supposed to be the CV that we want to actually use to capture areas. Now, in previous decks, I'm pretty sure I made it clear, I do not like the standard 100-point UAZ. I just don't. The 5 strengths and such, but we are limited on choice. We can't bring in any infantry CV, and the BMP 1K, while it's armored and everything, the Malyuka missile is not all that great. The main gun is Okay. Since we have one CV here, we need to get CVs. I am going to put the UAZ in this deck. This is just me swallowing that pill and just going ahead with it. Let's just quickly reorganize that. Now for supply, we're going to go with our standard MI6 Ural setup, because the Ural has 300 liters more supply than the Ural 375D cargo truck. And we will ultimately get more supply from this one card than if we just got the cargo. And the MI6, with a lot of supply on it, is basically going to be our mini fob. The MTP could be fun, but that's more for amphibiousness, and we're not going to have a lot of amphibious tanks in this deck. I don't think the Soviets have very much amphibious capability with tanks, so we're going to avoid this entirely. And we've got our logistics tab filled up. Let's go into the infantry tab. So the infantry tab, we have some options. I think we are going to get we want to get the BMP3. And let's compare that to the OBR 1986. Huh. So the OBR has a better Conquer's missile. Oh, but it doesn't have a stabilizer, but that's fine. I don't use stabilizers on these things to begin with. What about the main gun? Oh, it's just an autocannon. I see. So the BMP3 has a main gun, that's HE, and an autocannon. Oh, its HEGM is farther. And it's got a little bit more armor. It's pretty good for its price. But I think we want to get more Modestroki 90s. The Modestroki is not the best infantry, but they do have a pretty good RPG with the 24 AP power. So I think I'm going to get a card of that as a placeholder, but I might get another one. I think we also want some Conqueror's M's, put those ATGM in buildings. And we also want Igla Ends as well, because we need definitely to have all the AA support that we have. Now, the downside is we don't actually have any VDV or Spetsnaz or anything of that kind. So, to substitute that, we can get with some in Sapri, which is just regular napalm, or the Sapri 85. And this is the same gun that the Spetsnaz have. And this is actually pretty cool. So, we don't get the Spetsnaz, but at more than half the cost, more than half the cost, we can get the main focus of the Spetsnaz as a support role, and we can get the Sapri in BTRTs. And I have never really used the BTRTs. I've always wanted to, but there was just always stuff better that I could get that I ended up forgoing the BTRT. So, yeah, this time we're going to get the BTRT with the frag grenades. This will be our ultimate infantry killer right here. And we need to have a bit more power into our push. BMP3, oh, that cannon is at 2450 range. I see. That's what makes it so good. It's farther range than normal. Okay, so this is 45, this is 40, and that's 55 points. No, we're going to stick with the regular Modestroki 90 because regular Modestroki are not worth it. 2D is just basically overglorified versions of each other. The BMP-1D has a cannon on it, has some frag grenades of its own, help chew up infantry. I think we will get some BMP3s, and then we've also got a card of OBR 85s because they've got better Conqueror's M. Just got to remember that. We are also going. I know how to remember that. Yes. Put that there. Put that there. Put the. Actually, we can leave the Sapri over here on the left. I don't normally put the regular trained infantry here, but yeah, this will actually keep things in track. This would be our infantry killer. This will be our mixed bag of ATGM and infantry killer. This will be primarily our tank killer with a little bit of infantry fire support. And we'll remember that because the OBR 1986 has Conqueror's M, and it's right next to a Conqueror's M squad. So I'll keep track that way. So yeah, infantry looks pretty good. The infantry is primarily going to be used for clearing out towns and forests, and basically sweep ahead of the tanks to make sure in the forest no enemy infantry can get a side shot with a anti-tank weapon. Support tab. So we have a lot of options, but one thing I think we are going to get are the Vasiliks. Now this is a mortar that just fires. Basically, they have a clip of mortars that are put into this, and it just lobs it in rapid succession, like bang, 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 bang. And those mortars, I've kind of been disappointed. They don't really kill stuff, they do stun, but that's not the purpose why we're getting them. This thing can put out smoke incredibly fast, and if I've seen this done, if you play the tanks right in an open field, when you see an ATGM plane coming, you can quickly smoke the plane off with its Vasilic, and the smoke will cover up the tank so that the enemy plane can't actually shoot it. It's really, really good. It's hard to pull off, but if you become a master at doing so, you can essentially have your tanks out in the open and unfearful of enemy ATGM planes getting it. So we are going to get that. We are going to look at the Tunguska and the Tunguska M. We get 6 or 4. Now, let's compare. So, the Tunguska M is pretty king with his, it has longer range and more accurate missiles. But the regular Tunguska already has better than average stats in terms of missiles and such, and 100 points for a Tunguska would eat out of our ability to bring in tanks, so we can get one card of regular Tunguskas, so that we can shoot down enemy helicopters. We can also, we could get the Tor, but that's more radar, that's unnecessary. Let's get some Buck M1s to help shoot down planes. And we will, of course, get the Strela 10M. Because these are tracked and about the same speed as most of our tanks, we can send this down in a convoy, so we can fast move a convoy, and any helicopters that come, we can keep moving because the stabilizer will allow this infrared AA piece to keep shooting at it, which the Tunguska will have to stop in order to shoot its infrared missiles. The Tunguska mainly is going to be used for the radar gun, but we need to have those AA missiles capable, so that we just need to turn off, so we can avoid seed by just turning off the gun. And is there anything else in the support tab that we need? Not particularly. Just the smoke and the proper AA. That's all geared up. Alright, let's go there. And the bucks are at the end. Now we get to the best part, the tanks department. First thing we are going to do, we are going to get the T-72BU and the T-80UM. We're going to get both super heavies because this is one of the decks that has 2 super heavies in it. T-72BU has better armor in general. Top armor is 4, so it can actually survive some cluster shots. Has kind of an identical gun. Actually has an identical gun to the UM. The UM does have a better ATGM missile, but I don't like ATGM missiles on tanks. They just never seem to work for me. I don't know if it's just because I'm defective or because they're defective. I'm not quite sure. But the interesting thing is the T-80UM is faster, but has less autonomy, whereas T-72BU is slower, but has more autonomy. I find that kind of backwards, but there we go. They have their own trade-off, but we're going to get both of those. We are also going to get a card of T-80Us. These are a heavy tank which just barely don't qualify into another super heavy. But they are still really damn powerful. 20 AP powerful with their main gun. They have a reflex missile actually. Let's compare that to the T-72. Basically an identical missile to the T-72BU, except it has longer range. So these things are pretty significant. 20 front armor, so that's all cleared and done. I think that's going to be the end of what we want to bring in for the T-80s, because after that the T-80s fall off pretty quickly. The BV maybe. That's 4 AG. Well, let's compare that to what else looking at, the T-64 BV. The T-80 BV doesn't have a very good missile, and the T-64 is better. Yeah, better. Okay, so I could choose between the T-64 BV or the T-64 BV1. And they've got the same gun, except the BV has 1 more AP power, and then they also have the ATGM missile. Now, I am torn, because I don't like the ATGMs with the Soviet tanks, because they don't quite work out, unless in very specific circumstances. But the 1 extra AP power, I am coveting right now. Oh, why do you do this to me? Okay, we are going to get the T-64 BV. So we've got a lot of high quality tanks. Now we need to go look at cheaper things to get. The T-72B is actually used to be my main tank that I used to get a lot. It used to be 80 points for its cost, but they bumped it up because it was so good. Yeah, we need to fill in some tanks, so... Oh, wow. We even get less than normal. If we're going to pay this price, I'm going to, and have that little availability, I'm going to get 2 cards of Elite. And then, of course, we have to get the T-72A. The T-72A is an amazing tank for its price of 55 points. Why is that? Well, it's got 4 HE power, so it can destroy enemy infantry like no tomorrow. It's got a decent gun. Yes, it's kind of short on range, but for its price range, this is a pretty decent gun. But the main reason why we get T-72As is this front armor. This front armor is basically in the perfect position of most Blue 4 ATGMs or even tank shots at range that hit the T-72A in the front armor. The T-72A will generally survive with 1 HP. I've seen this over and over and over again. The T-72A will need to take 2 shots to kill from the front armor. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you put this in front of, say, your T-80UM or T-72BU, and the ATGM missile hits, they'll have to reload that ATGM or shell, shoot at this tank again, and kill it if you leave the AI to its own devices, which a lot of players do, and then it would have to turn and engage this T-72BU. That entire time, the T-72BU can acquire the target that's shooting at T-72A and try to take it out before they get to your super heavy tank. And on top of it, with its decent gun, this T-72A is basically another cannon that can fire while it survived that first hit. So, I hope that made sense to you. T-72A, really good. Now we're getting into the not so great category. We've got the 1989 T-72B variant. Let's compare for these. Okay. Compare it to the T-80U. Just got a better. Not even that. It's even less accurate. No, I don't think we're going to get that at all. The T-62 MV1 is actually a very good kind of sniper tank. It's long-range ATGM, decent, well, okay-ish cannon, but oh, here we go. T-55AMV. That's the better one. Because if we take a look. Yes, it doesn't have the range. But, actually I'm looking at this. It's not actually better. It's just got 5% extra accuracy. That's what I was thinking when I saw this. Some Redford tanks are really, really good. Yeah, T-34s, I remember 3 HE. I was really surprised from that. There used to be a time where there was known as T-34 spam, when everyone would just spam T-34s. Thankfully, we have grown past that moment. And I think we are instead going to get another card of T-80Us. And we are going to get... Yeah, sure. We'll get a card of T-34s because they're cheap and because they're 3 HE power. They're basically very cheap infantry fire support. So let's go and quickly reorganize this up. Right there. And we want to have... Yeah, we want the T-72s at the end and the T-34s right there. Alright, and I like how the T-34s are even going to be coming in at veteran. That's always a nice twist to this. So these T-34s can actually hit their target. Fairly accurate, I might add. Okay, Recon. We don't get very much. We are going to get the MI2. We also need to get the Razvika, but we're not getting them in the MI-24D because these are regular trained and their veterancy will not go over to the Mi-24D. And if the Mi-24D is not elite trained, it's not worth getting. So we can get it in Urals or the MT-LBV. We're going to get it in the MT-LBV because it is armored, whereas the Ural is not. It has more HP, whereas the Ural does not. And it even has a gun on it. So we need to have these just for our infantry to be able to scout around. The BRM-1K has exceptional optics. That's a little bit overkill, but given our options available, T-55 is not great with its good optics. Good optics can miss quite a bit in forest. So we are going to get the BRM-1K for exceptional recon. We need to have our spotters. So we've got our cheap infantry. This is a good order, I think. Just basically enough to spot so that our tanks can hit. Vehicles. We do want to get some BMPTs. This is another infantry killer. Afghanskis. These can be fun. They are non-radar, and they can chew apart. They're mainly fire support with that extra ground range to kill infantry, but they can be pretty deadly if the helicopters fly pretty close. Oh, I remember the Su-122 is still pretty decent with 4 HE power. I just remember the days when these were 5 HE power and completely overpowered. Norov, just a fast gun. Ooh, Sturms? I didn't know the armor got Sturms. We're going to get a card of those hard. Sturms have 2,800 meters. Very accurate. Perfect for sniping enemy tanks that you don't want to tangle with. We can get T-62 or T-55. And we are getting the T-55. And the reason why is that the T-55 has actually more rounds per minute, even if the gun's less accurate. It has more rounds per minute, it's going to get spit out shells faster, and with 11 AP power with the both, why pay the difference? Oh, they actually are the same price. Ah, whatever. We're just getting some napalm. That's what TO-55 is for. I think that will be it for our vehicles tab. Helicopters. We actually get a decent amount. We are going to get Kokon M missiles on these Mi-24 VEPs. Now we can get Mi-4A or the Mi-4AV. 96 missiles takes a while to go through. 128 is kind of overkill. Now I do love the look of these planes because every time I look at them, I always imagine that if they're like parked on the field, ready to go into the battle, and the bird just kind of flies and lands at the end of this tank, this little ledge here, the whole helicopter will then tip over. I'm always amused myself when I see that. But anyways, Mi-4AV, we are going to get this. This is a rapid response helicopter. The ATGMs aren't the best, but they can take out light armored vehicles alright, and it's got plenty of rockets to suppress enemy infantry, and it's got 6 strength, so the enemy, this is basically our T-34 in the sky to be able to intercept enemy AA missiles. Aircraft is going to be mainly taking out enemy planes, so we can get the Su-27PU or the Su-27S. And the reason why is that the Su-27S comes in at hardened, and the Su-27PU, if we take a look there, comes in at rookie. And the Su-27S has long-range missiles as well as the Su-27PU, but they're longer range. You only get 4 missiles instead of the 6, but that is a little bit less of an issue. And the reason why is by the time both of these missiles hit, or you fire 2 missiles from your long range, you're already in range of the short range missiles. So having 6 is, I mean, it's nice to have if you want to have a really extended long range engagements, but most air engagements don't last that long. The also main difference is, the HE power is not that much a significant difference, but it's the fact that these are semi-active or fire and forget. Now what this means is the operator needs to aim the missile when it gets to the target in the air, usually on the ground with semi-active, is that you need to keep line of sight with like a tank or something in order to hit it. If the tank disappears, that missile's going to go flying elsewhere. The thing is, it's less of an issue in the sky because there's nowhere to hide in the air. The planes will see each other, especially with exceptional air detection, and just be able to constantly shoot at each other. So we're probably going to get the Su-27S for that reason. And so yeah, the fire and forget's not as important, as we will be able to, as long as the Su-27 can see the target, it can still try to hit them with those missiles. So, Yak 141 and why I don't like it. Well, because it's only got 2 long range and 2 short range missiles, and once it fires that up, it's expended its armament. So we are going to keep moving on. The Su-27M could give us a very lethal anti-tank guided missile action, but we already have a lot of ATGMs. Oh, I'm torn. I know what I'm trying to decide between. Should we get the Su-24M or the IL-102? Both are very good carpet bombing of high explosive ammunitions, where basically they cover an area and bombs and kill everything in its path. The difference is the Su-24M is 250 kilogram bombs, but 30 of them. The IL-102 is 500 kilogram bombs and 14 of them. And if I do the math, I think the IL-102 does have higher yield of explosives and all that. And the IL-102 is armored, it's just more expensive. It's got a gun that's never going to be used ever, because no plane actually engages it in autocannon combat. I'm just thinking about this because I always get the Su-24M because it is one of the best planes in my opinion. Well, for bombers, I think I'm just going to stick with the Su-24M. I will try the IL-102 someday. I don't know when that day will come, but someday. I'm going to avoid interceptors and everything. Now, the MiG-23 MLD, I've seen this used to good effect, but it's only when they're elite trained, and I think we need airborne in order to elite this up. With an elite trained MiG-23 MLD, we could snipe out helicopters. I remember a player doing that to me a lot. That was annoying. But yeah, hardened I don't think is enough to do flybys of shooting down enemy planes. Of course. How could I forget the MiG-25 PD? Get those in at veteran. Yes, their missiles are 40% accuracy, but that's what the veterancy helps compensate for that. But also because both their missiles are 8 HE power. These things can take out planes in one hit with those missiles if they can score a critical hit. And they're very fast, exceptional optic air detection. So, for the price range of 100 points, I'm definitely going to bring in some PDs. How much? Okay, we have a lot of ATGMs action, especially in the tanks. So yeah, we don't need the MiG-27. I prefer the MiG-27 because I can get these in at veteran. A lot of other players can get the MiG-27M and the MiG-27K. The problem is that rookie and train status when you get 2 of them. And since you can only get 1, some people will get like the 27M Elite so that it can guarantee 1 hit kill. As for me, I like to have 2 of them, and having them in that veteran still will do the job at killing the tanks with 28 AP power. In fact, the only difference is that the 27K has 30 AP power. Yes, they get longer range each level up. This is just my preference of what I would do if I got the MiG-27, but I'm not getting the MiG-27 in this deck. Instead, we are going to get Cluster in the MiG-29M. Now, 4 cluster bombs, 6 AP power, that could kill most Blue Force things just fine. But it also has the added role of having fire and forget missiles, so it can basically double up as a little bit of an air superiority fighter. Not superiority, but just the fact that we can contribute in trying to shoot down enemy planes. Bombers especially, that can't defend themselves. I probably send the MiG-29M after. Alright, so we can now rule the skies. I'm going to put the Su-27M over there. And yeah, this is a good order. Air superiority, cheaper air superiority, can assist, and then HE bomb as well as cluster bomb next to it. And actually, we're full activation points. So navigation-wise, how do we want to navigate with our navy? Do we do the standard? Tanks can't really support it, but we do have a lot of air superiority planes that could support our ships on sea. So, hello Sovereignty, hello Udaloy, a couple Jangu 3s, and where's the Muna? Where's the Muna? Where's the Muna? Did I pass it? No. There it is. Hiding from me. Vehicles is checking. I wanted to check what I got. Didn't actually get Afghanskis. Oh well. We should have enough AA with these units. And, yeah. That will be our Soviet armored deck. So, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any other deck ideas, please leave a comment down below. And, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video.